In this video, I'm going to be showing you the full process of taking a photo that you've taken in a photo studio or a photo workshop, and then editing that to fix imperfections and to really highlight the model. And that's the goal. Architectural photography can really do so much in terms of highlighting your work and showing the best aspects. So we're going to be taking this image here. This is the old version, and then we're going to be trying to make it look like the new version. And in hindsight, this is probably a little bit too overexposed. It's a bit too much. It's overdone. But I think it still looks a lot better. We've removed all these surface imperfections, and we're just really trying to highlight the model. So for example, this is another image. This is the old. We can see there's all this texture and all these imperfections around the model. And then this is the new. So adding quite a bit of light, quite a bit of depth, and of course adjusting the shadows and everything around it to remove all those imperfections and really highlight the model. So yeah, here we go. Now before I get started, what I wanted to mention is that before you can achieve results like this, the scene is going to have to be set up in the right way to even achieve this. So in your photo studio, you'll have two lights that are highlighting the background. Those are a little bit dimmer, and then you have a big dome light that's just directly above the model, and that's a soft light, a box light, and that just adds shadows and depth to your model. And you really have to play around with that and determine where the shadows are best highlighting your work, and then you have to produce a result that you really enjoy. So you really have to play around with it. As an example, let's look at the project. So just for taking one image, there was so many versions, right? Yeah, like 50 images just for one model, and you really have to play around with lighting, angles, and also you have to set yourself up in the right way. A really good trick I found when taking model photos is to stand really far back and then use the optical zoom on your camera to change the perspective of the image and shrink it down. So stand further back and really zoom in with your lens. It won't affect the quality. It's an optical lens, so no worries there. But really play around with lighting, play around with the dome light, set the height correctly, up, down, left, right, and try to highlight the shadows in your model. So you really have to experiment with that. Okay, so now we're going to hop into Photoshop, and we'll make this literally 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, we'll keep it nice and simple. So Photoshop is open. Let's just pop our image in there. Here we go. Pretty dark. The background doesn't have much depth. Maybe actually it has too much depth probably. So we're trying to really adjust those levels. So here we'll pop up into our camera raw filter. You might have to convert that to a smart object to really use this feature. And then I'm trying to make the scene a little bit brighter and highlight the model more instead of the background. So we're trying to make the scene a bit more even. So to do that, first I think we need to adjust our exposure. We can test our auto, see what that result is going to give us, but usually when there's fake lighting in an image, it won't really produce results that are amazing. So I'm going to bring our exposure up a little bit. I'm not looking at the background. We can adjust that later. I'm looking more at the model. So what's our model looking like? Because we can always decrease our white levels. So I'm liking the wood there. I think that's looking pretty good. Probably about there. Okay. Contrast. This is going to really adjust our background. So do you see that's super dark? I kind of even it out a little bit. Make it a little bit more highlighting the model. So I think that's nice right there. There we go. Highlights, adjusting our white levels. So this will highlight, of course, our model. But we don't want to overdo it. I think that's you have to be careful of the wood and also all the details in your model. You don't want to lose those details. So Okay, I think I like that result. Shadows, more affecting our darker scenes, our areas where there's shadows. And I don't want our scene to be too shadowy, so I'm going to increase our shadows just a little bit, probably about 25. And I think that should be a good amount. Whites, just our entire scene, the white levels, not just the highlights and the shadows, but the entire scene, more of the overall brightness of our image, similar to our exposure. And then our black levels. Okay, so we've really removed a lot of that darkness in the back there. And let's see what it looked like before and after. So I'm really happy with the result. I think that's looking a lot cleaner. It highlights the model more instead of the background. And it's looking a little bit brighter, happier, and this really will affect the mood that the reader will see when they look at the model. So saturation and vibrance, I want to adjust that to kind of adjust our wood levels. Because the scene doesn't have many colors. There's no greens, there's no blues, there's no nothing. It's just the wood. So we're going to specifically look at the wood, and we're going to try to find a color that we think is nice. But we don't want to overdo it, so there's balance here. This can really make a big difference. So I'd say that's a little bit too yellow. A little bit too yellow. And usually the colors that come out of the camera are quite good, especially if you're shooting in RAW. So I think that's looking good. Okay, perfect. I like to add a bit of grain, not too much, around 10. That really adds a little more texture to our image. And then another slider that really makes a big difference is our dehazing. So this just lightens up the whole scene and removes a lot of that grunge and that haze. But we'll be doing that later on as well. Okay, I think those results are good. That's looking clean, looking professional. And now we just have to deal with these imperfections in the floor. And that takes 2 seconds. Okay, we'll click OK. Of course, you can adjust your white levels and black levels more with a curve. But we've already done that a little bit. But of course, you can get into more detail with all that. Color grading, we'll leave that. So all good. See, massive difference already. Big difference. Okay, let's select our subject. Select subject. Usually Photoshop does a pretty good job here, actually, and it's not bad. There we go. Subject selection. We'll inverse our selection. It's good to make maybe a copy of this image just to keep it as an option to go back to. So we want to be non-destructive when we're editing. So we'll hold Alt, drag it, make a copy. We'll pull that in the back. Doesn't matter. Then we'll go to Filter, Blur, and then we'll go to Surface Blur. Now this will do a lot. You have to be careful not to overdo it, or else the scene just looks too soft and too blurry. We're not, of course, affecting our model, but we're affecting the scene around it. So play around with the radius. This is how many pixels that the blur affects. And then the threshold, I think 10 is a good level. So it's more playing around with the radius. Okay. Threshold isn't really doing too much. That's okay. But there we are. We've already made a huge difference. We're now highlighting the model. It has a lot more depth. It still has shadows. You want to keep those shadows. And then the surroundings are less textured and they're clearer and it's easier to read. That's the whole goal, is to make your image easier to read. So I hope that helped. Thank you very much for watching this video.